On this edition of Independent Sources,
growing concerns that the Secure Communities program may be targeting non-criminal immigrants rather than high-level criminals.
the lone voice of Haitian radio for days after the devastating quake speaks out.
And a man who's got his finger on the pulse of what's hot in urban Latino culture. Welcome to Independent Sources. I'm Garry Pierre-Pierre.
And I'm Vianora Vinca. The Secure Communities Program, or SCOM, as advocates have come to call it, is the latest flashpoint in the immigration debate. The program allows local law enforcement to check the immigration status of anyone they arrest and book into a county or local jail. The individual's prints are checked against the FBI and Department of Homeland Security databases.
The program is causing a stir because immigration advocates are complaining that SCOM is leading to the deportation of non-criminal immigrants rather than the criminals it's designed to target. Meanwhile, law enforcement agents in some states are saying that it's affecting their ability to do community policing.
Zyphus Lebrun spoke with Renée Feltz, a reporter who has been covering SCOM, and lawyer Sunita Patel about the program and the response so far.
Renée, ICE calls SCOM, Secure Communities, a comprehensive strategy, quote, to improve and modernize the identification and removal of criminal aliens from the U.S. And one immigration activist has called it the worst law passed since SB 1070 was passed in Arizona. Which one is it, do you think?
SCOM, as a lot of people refer to it, or Secure Communities, is definitely a problem for the average American. You've got a situation where police are checking the immigration status of those that they encounter. In this case, it's happening inside the jail. But nonetheless, you have a situation where police are enforcing immigration. There have been a lot of problems identified with it already that we can talk about today, and I would argue that it's a problem that needs closer examination.
Mm-hmm. Now, Sunita, one of the things that's happened is that this is a mandatory law that's being placed across the board. But some states, including DC and California, have resisted so far. Will they eventually fall under the SCOM umbrella soon?
Well, I mean, the short answer is we don't actually know. I mean, these, and just to clarify a little bit, what has happened is that there has been a little bit of flip-flopping from the government on the scope of the program and how it's actually going to be implemented on the local level. So you have places like the District of Columbia and Arlington, Virginia, San Francisco, California, that have passed legislation saying that they do not want to be part of the program and that they don't want to share all information with the immigration authorities. And this is a real serious issue because the local governments have decided that their value system does not comport with placing law enforcement at the center of immigration enforcement. And I believe that the federal government must have the ability to allow local jurisdictions to what we are calling opt out of the program.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But just recently, the head of the DHS basically went on record as saying that all these states will eventually have to comply. That's Janet Napolitano.
She said that that the program was never intended to be an opt-out or an opt-in program. And I think that we are really trying to get more clarification, and the activists and the policymakers in those jurisdictions are meeting with officials soon to find out what that actually means.
Mm-hmm. Now, Renée, this has been a bill, this has been a law, Secure Communities has been a law since November 23rd of 2008. Why is it all of a sudden becoming this big thing?
I think a couple of reasons. A lot of people heard, as you referred to, SB 1070 in Arizona. They started to get alarmed that police could be asking the people they encounter about their immigration status, something brand new that usually does not happen. But I think also we've seen Secure Communities operate for 2 years now, and there are questions that can be legitimately raised because there's data that shows how the program operates. And part of what we're seeing in that data is that ICE has a mandate to target high-level criminal immigrants. That's what Congress has funded the program to do. But instead, we see a program that's primarily targeting low-level offenders and, as we see in the data, people who are characterized by ICE as non-criminals. So there's a concern partly because of that, I think. I think alarm is also growing because in the law enforcement community, they're saying we used to have community policing. We used to have a comfortable relationship with immigrants who may not have legal status in terms of where their application process is at, but they do have a right to be protected from criminals in their community. They used to be able to come forward to us. Now they're much more apprehensive, and that's a concern for them.
Now, this concern as regards to community policing and so forth, have you in your own reporting, have you seen the physical manifestations of it? Have the police directly given you like anecdotes and so forth?
You know, what I saw when I went to Harris County, which is where Secure Communities began in Texas, that's home to Houston, a city that, you know, is fairly close to the border, has a lot of immigrants from all over the world, though, because it also has a petrochemical industry there. You know, I spoke with members of the community, for example, women who were victims of domestic violence, and they specifically told me that they were apprehensive about seeking help from police to get out of that abusive relationship. And interestingly, you know, when I spoke to the ICE official in charge of the region there, he said, you know, the woman you're describing to me is not someone that we would normally go out and target. However, if she was brought into our jail and we saw that her status was undocumented, we would exercise the right to detain her and possibly deport her.
Now, this notion that Renée just mentioned, Sunita, this idea of the fact that originally there were 3 classifications for offenders, classification class 1, 2, and 3, but now there seems to be this sort of new amorphous classification where the person does not necessarily have to be an offender. Is that perhaps a sticking point where this secure communities can perhaps be debated a little more?
Well, definitely. I mean, I think one thing that I want your viewers to be clear about, Congress has not passed any legislation that secure communities must be done. Unlike 287G, which there's been a lot of coverage about, which is actually found, there is statutory authority for 287G. Secure Communities is a program that the Obama administration is administering. It's something created under the Bush administration, and the Obama administration is just continuing to use it. And one of the reasons is because 287G received a lot of criticism for promoting racial profiling in the communities. So what you see with this non-criminal category is that exact nexus. You have police officers who are potentially profiling non-citizens and immigrants and Latinos, and here in New York City, many black immigrants, or the potential that there would be lots of black immigrants caught in the program in New York City. They come to the jail and they get fingerprinted, and instead of then being able to hold police officers accountable for unlawfully arresting them and for violating persons' constitutional rights, they end up in detention and deportation proceedings instead. So with this non-criminal category, there is a clear suggestion and an indication that in some counties there is racial profiling going on. I mean, you have upwards of 50, 60, 70, even 80% in some jurisdictions of quote-unquote non-criminals getting deported because of the program.
Now, according to the statistics that ICE has released, it's up to 392,000 deportations in the last year, I believe. Now, those are the largest numbers. They're basically touting this as their largest number of deportations ever. Amongst those deportations, how many, you know, when you crunch the numbers, how many of these people are like really high-level offenders? Level 1 and so forth. Would you be able to, do you know, Renée? You
know, I don't know offhand. It is true that the Obama administration credits secure communities to a large extent for its record number of deportations. Janet Napolitano said as much when she announced that record number, you know, in October, very shortly before the election. And it's, you know, but when you ask about the numbers, how do they break down? Well, you know, that raises a good question. So far, ICE has been less than forthcoming with what people are charged with when they're brought into the deportation system. So we don't even really have the ability to totally answer that question. We might know that they're categorized as a level 1, 2, or 3 offender, but we don't know exactly what the charge was. So ICE is really making up the labels here. It's hard to know.
And I think that the secrecy behind this and the fact that the government is not actually answering these questions and putting this information out in the public in a truthful and honest manner goes to the heart of government transparency, which is what the Obama administration said it was about when it came into office. You know, the Center for Constitutional Rights has filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit in the Southern District of New York on behalf of the National Day Labor Organizing Network, along with the Cardozo Immigrant Justice Clinic, just to get information about this program. When we filed our case in April, there was very little information that was actually known about the program. And the government has released, you know, a small amount of information, but only because there's a lawsuit and because we have forced them to make this information about this program public.
All right, ladies, on that note, great conversation, but we'll have to leave it at that. Sunita Patel, Renée Feltz, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Still to come on independent sources, Haiti once again at a critical crossroads.
But before that, Marlene Peralta with some other news.
Thanks, Vianora. Here's a look at some headlines from the ethnic media. From the Filipino Reporter, a woman considered by many to be the Filipino Bernie Madoff has been granted temporary freedom. The paper reports that Rachel Canido paid $1 million bail on September 24 after spending 8 months in jail. Canido is accused of soliciting investments from the Filipino community in New York to pay for immigration expenses for nurses and nannies from the Philippines who wanted to work in the U.S. According to the charges, Canido did not invest the victims' money and instead deposited the cash into overseas bank accounts. El Diario La Prensa reports that the Hispanic category will no longer appear on the forms public school students need to fill out by law. As a result, Hispanics will have to choose from white, black, Asian, Pacific Islanders, or Native Americans when choosing a race. The paper says this measure has created frustration in the community. Congressman Jose Serrano has already urged the Department of Education to put the category back in. The former Bank of Ireland chief executive, Mike Soden, has suggested Ireland should consider leaving the European Union if the country's inability to make decisions on its own fiscal policy continues. The Irish Voice reports that the leading member of the Central Bank Commission sarcastically said that one option was for Ireland to become the U.S. 51st state. The 63-year-old banker wrote the controversial comments in his latest book on the financial crisis called Open Dissent. And finally, Boston might follow New York City's footsteps if it approves the opening of a Chinese immersion school. According to the Sanpan, New England's only Chinese English publication, the Boston Chinese Immersion Charter School could become Boston's first Chinese immersion school program as soon as the fall of 2011. That's if the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education gives the go-ahead. Immersion programs are not new in the country. Cities like New York and San Francisco have had Chinese immersion school programs for years. Those are just a few headlines from the ethnic media. Back to Garry and Vianora in the studio.
Thanks, Marlene. There's an old blues song that says, "If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all." That seems like an apt description of Haiti.
In January, it was the earthquake. Last week, a cholera outbreak hit the troubled Caribbean nation. On top of it all, next month, Haiti has to hold presidential and parliamentary elections with more than 1 million people living under tents in the capital, Port-au-Prince.
I sat down with Mario Viau, the owner of Signal FM. He was in New York to receive a Maria Moore's Cabot Prize, an honor Columbia School of Journalism awards for excellence in international reporting in the Western Hemisphere. Viau got the award for his station's role in keeping Haitians all over the world abreast of what was going on during the earthquake. We discussed the past, present, and future conditions of his homeland. Where were you on January 12 when the earthquake hit?
I was not at the radio station. I was on the Delmas Road. It's a road going to the radio station when it happened. And when it happened, I didn't understand it at first. But I saw a lot of people running and things. And then I was in my car going up. So I had to make sure, call my family, my wife, to know if everything was all right while I was driving. I have another business on the road of Delmas. It's a security company, so I had to call them and find out if everything was fine. Going to the radio, and when I got to the radio 1 hour after, I saw everybody, my wife included, outside. Everybody was afraid to go inside. But on the road, while I was listening to radio stations, where there wasn't no news, but the radio station, Signal FM, was on the air, but was playing only one music, Hotel California, that the journalists had just put on repeat. It was going on and on and on. So when I arrived at the radio station, everybody was outside talking about what happened. And I said, well, we are on the air, so we're going to have to go inside. You know, some people look at me and say, are you crazy? We're going to go inside? I said, yes, we're going to have to. Well, at least I'm going to go inside to talk to the people. And the operator, I told him, you go inside with me, you turn on the mic, and you go back out if you want, and I'm going to start talking to the people. And my wife said to me, if you go inside, I'm going in too. And I had two journalists that says the same thing. So we actually went inside. We started to talk to the people about what was the situation.
So what did you tell them? I mean,
well, I told them exactly what I saw, what I felt.
And what did you feel at the time?
Well, shaking. You know, shaking and seeing places
destroyed
and things like that. Talking about this, talking about what I saw on my way up and what was happening.
Well, the interesting thing, and for viewers, that at that time, unbeknownst to you, Signal FM was the only station broadcasting in Port-au-Prince.
Definitely. So we had to do something about this.
When did you realize that, by the way?
That we were the only, we didn't have time to think that we were the only one. We knew that as far as a media, a radio station, it was our job to go and inform the people about this. And our internet was working also. And, you know, we have some international lines working also. So we had, it started like that with people, because the phone, the cell phone and the phone in Haiti were down. So the international was actually calling to know what was going on in Haiti. So our first Haitians living in the States and all over, they would call and say, what's going on? And a few of them was asking questions. And that's how we started, by telling them. And how it was going, people in Haiti realized that this radio station was working, so they would come also at the radio station to say things. They're looking for their families. And that's how the program would start. And as the situation was growing, we were adapting the format to the situation. And health people, medicine, and people, ONGs, and embassies, all those people were coming to talk to the different crowds. And that's how we started, and we kept on going until we started new shows to work with the people and things like that.
You know, it was interesting. I was in Haiti a couple of days after the earthquake, and Signal FM was my source of information. It was really incredible. People would gather, and all of them had a list of names that they wanted you to broadcast. So they wanted to connect with their relatives, either here or in the United States. And how did you decide who to go? Was it on a first come, first served basis? How did you decide to stop it? At which point you said enough was enough?
Well, we didn't quite stop it. We had to do it. And it was like, at that time, Signal FM was like a telephone, because the phone was not working. So people that are in the States that wanted to call their family in Haiti, or people in Haiti wanted to call the other family that they didn't see, they didn't have the phone to do it. So they had to come to the radio, so we have to give the name on, and they would say, if you're alive, meet me in front of Radio Signal FM, or if you're alive, come to Radio Signal FM and give me a call in Miami, I'm listening to you. So at that time particularly, Signal FM was just a telephone company working between those people.
It was communication tools.
We couldn't start it. What we did is, at certain time, we give hours to do that. We said, probably the next 2 hours we're going to do that. After, it's going to be for the doctors to come and interfere. After, it's going to be for the NGOs, the government. We had different format as the days was going until that part went a little.
Well, you mentioned the government. You know, when I was there, I didn't feel that the government took advantage of Signal FM in a way that it should, considering that it was the only means of communications with the people. Why do you think there was not a closer collaboration? Why didn't they use the station much more than the NGOs and private people did to communicate? Why didn't the government use that?
Well, at first when this happened, the first thing I said on the microphone on the air was, I sent a message to the government, the police, and UN, that was the minister force, the UN force that was in Haiti. I told them that this radio station is working. If you need to send out your messages, you can go through here. But normally, I thought that the government was going to take over the radio station and give it back to me probably 1 month after, because we were the only one. Unfortunately, they didn't do it, so we had to do the work. And the excuse was that all the structures, the government structures was down, and they also had to take care of their problem, their family, the missing ministers and things like that, even though we had the same kind of problem.
Everyone in the country did.
We did stay. Well, I think that when you do this type of business, journalists, you have the service inside of you, and the first thing you want to do is to serve, to communicate with the people. And this is their problem, that they didn't do it, but we had to do our part, so I think that we did.
Next month there'll be elections, and recently we had an outbreak of cholera. What else can go on?
Well, let me tell you something. We have to go. I think that the politicians have to go above their normal way of saying things and say that today we have cholera, that cholera problem, and the candidate doing their campaign, what they're doing, they're moving around the country, and they have a lot of people that are moving with them. I think they should stop this for a while and treat the cholera problem, because the problem is that if they keep moving around and they keep moving around with people that already have cholera, it's going to spread out up in the country.
So you're saying basically they should stop campaigning?
They should stop campaigning for a while and take care of Haiti. It's just like I said before, they're talking about reconstruction of Haiti, and they're also talking about democracy. I could understand a country like the United States having 200 or more years of democracy. It is normal for them to have the elections on time, excuse me. But in a country like Haiti, where we had that earthquake, we have that cholera problem, we have the rebuilding process that have to start, and we have the election also, but election that a lot of people are not motivated on, where we're going to have a president with a maximum of 20% of the population, and the big reconstructions problems are going to be for all the country. I would not go with 20% of the people in a reconstruction process when it might not be the right way to do. I would go with everybody. So now I think that the political sector should sit together with the international and say that it's a decision that we have to take, all of us have to take together, because we don't need that in the road 1 year after or 2 years after another political party go into power and say that we didn't want what they did. We don't want the way it's done, we're going to do it again. So it's a process where all Asian, all political sector, financial sector, base organization, social organization, they have to send their members in a regroupment that sit down together and say this is what we want.
When we come back, urban Latino culture in high gloss.
And finally from us tonight, when Jorge Cano-Moreno began printing Urban Latino magazine in 1994, his goal was to start a publication that would be the voice for bicultural Latinos.
Readers caught on almost immediately, but with a recent dip in advertising sales for print media, Cano-Moreno was forced to reinvent his brand. Abby Shola has the story.
very lucky. You know, you have to thank your lucky stars that you can get up every day, go into your own business, and you're pretty much doing your own thing.
Jorge Cano-Moreno has been doing his own thing for the past 17 years. Back in 1991, the 40-year-old Colombia native discovered his calling when he saw an NYU publication that targeted second and third generation Latinos. Though the magazine was only a school project, it got him thinking bigger. After serving 2 years in the Army, Cano-Moreno returned to New York City armed with a business plan.
So I did my research, and it showed that 80 to 85% of Latinos that migrate to the United States go into cities. So there's a common denominator when a kid from Mexico or family from Colombia comes into New York or Chicago. You come in, you hold on to some of your culture, but what happens? You get influenced by other cultures, hip hop, African American culture, Asian culture, whatever you're into.
At the time, he was into mainstream magazines like Vibe and The Source. So he decided to start Urban Latino, a similar magazine geared towards Latino youth. It became the first professional English language publication targeted to the demographic. The magazine was one of the first to cover up-and-coming entertainers, hip-hop enthusiasts, and prominent figures from Hispanic backgrounds. Cano-Moreno said readers caught on quickly when he first began publishing, but advertisers didn't.
First, very difficult to get advertisers to buy ads because they didn't get it. But once they realized that there's a whole other market that's Latin, young, and speaks English, then we started seeing some of the clients come in.
Language became the least of his worries later on. Like most print media, Urban Latino recently took a huge hit to its ad revenue. That forced Cano-Moreno to restructure his entire company. The 40-year-old business owner left his pricey Manhattan office and relocated to this loft in Dumbo, Brooklyn. Here he was able to expand and collaborate with other entrepreneurs.
A couple of years ago, a lot of the businesses that we deal with in our studio, we all had offices all over this building, and we all sat down and were like, listen, your business is complementary to ours, your business is complementary to ours, why don't we all just come into one operation and refer business to each other? And it's been working out beautiful.
The loft is sectioned off into several workrooms, including a recording facility where artists rent space to create demos and voiceovers.
A lot of people come here just to try to get their careers going.
The Urban Latino brand has also ventured into marketing, promotions, merchandising for various brands, and producing commercials.
This is my partner right here, Alex Norman. He's the one that runs all those things.
Cano-Moreno's new partner, Alex Norman, is the founder of PNC Radio, a hip-hop online radio station. 2 years ago, he sold Cano-Moreno on the idea to partner up and start another digital station, but this time under the Urban Latino moniker.
The radio station is really the lifeblood of that content. It's what keeps these doors crowded with people on a daily basis.
DJ Hayes right there, Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street.
The radio station has also helped revitalize the Urban Latino brand during a time when digital media is taking over. Cano-Moreno says he's been able to update his company in a way bigger brands have not, while maintaining a steady 85,000 magazine subscribers.
I think a business like ours that's still small, it's a small boat and it could turn quick. The bigger guys like People, in Espanol, Latina, they're a big boat, so they can't turn as fast. So when things come up, we can adjust quickly.
And because of that, he says, he has no competition. For independent sources, Abby Ishola.
That's our show. Thanks for watching. We hope you'll join us again next week.
Till then, stay independent-minded.